Field Commander Vitak adjusted his posture in the ergonomically designed hover chair, his four-fingered hand absently tapping against the holographic display controls. The observation feed from Earth, designation Sol 3, flickered before him, showing yet another morning in what the locals called New York City. Computer, replay subject 274's morning activity pattern. He chittered, his mandibles clicking in what his subordinates had learned to recognize as annoyance. The display shifted, focusing on a female human moving at what his instruments classified as elevated velocity through a designated recreation area. Dr. Jessica Anderson, age 32, appeared completely unremarkable by human standards. She wore what his cultural database identified as athletic attire, form-fitting garments in various shades of blue and black. Her brown hair was secured in what humans called a ponytail, and she carried no visible weapons or enhancement devices. Subject maintaining velocity of 8.5 kilometers per hour, the computer reported. Current duration, 47 minutes. Vitak's upper eye ridges twitched. Without rest, confirm biological readings. Confirmed. Subject's vital signs indicate moderate exertion only. Current activity classified as morning jog, a common recreational exercise among this species. The commander began dictating his notes for the official report. Subject continues to display the bizarre endurance ritual common to their species. Like many observed humans, they appear to deliberately exhaust themselves before their primary work cycle. Primitive behavior, likely a vestigial instinct from their pre-industrial period. He paused the playback when Anderson stopped near a metal frame structure, taking a small device from her pocket. Computer, audio. And the initial results from the quantum entanglement tests are promising. Anderson's voice came through clearly as she spoke into her phone. We're seeing correlation rates above 89% at room temperature. I think we can push it further if we... She paused, reaching up to grasp a horizontal bar on the metal frame. Vitak watched in mild disbelief as she proceeded to lift her entire body mass, performing what his database called pull-ups while continuing her scientific discussion. Submit this to cultural analysis, Vitak muttered. Humans appear to combine intellectual and physical activities, with no apparent loss of function in either. He added another note, possible sign of cognitive limitations, unable to focus on single tasks. The commander was so absorbed in his analysis that he failed to notice the software of his office door opening. Kaller, the council's chief scientific advisor, glided into the room on their levitation platform, a sleek device about the size of a human's coffee table hovering behind them. Preparing your final assessment, Commander. Kaller's voice had the harmonious quality common to their species. Vitak straightened immediately. Yes, advisor. I'm recommending we classify humans as a Class 3 civilization. Minimal threat potential. They're physically unimpressive, with no natural defenses beyond their basic endurance capabilities. Their technology is advancing, but they're clearly still focused on primitive physical culture rather than true advancement. Kaller made a sound that might have been amusement. Interesting. And you've accounted for all variables in your analysis. Of course, Vitak replied, perhaps too quickly. I've studied thousands of hours of observation footage. Their military training, their sports, their daily activities, all indicate a species that's hardy, but ultimately unremarkable in terms of physical capabilities. Excellent. Kaller gestured to the device behind them. Then you won't mind participating in a small demonstration during your presentation to the council. I've brought something that might add an important perspective to your report. Vitak's mandibles clicked in agreement, not noticing the subtle undertone of mischief in Kaller's voice. I would be honored. On the display, Dr. Anderson finished her set of pull-ups and resumed her jog, still dictating complex quantum physics theories. The computer continued its monotone commentary. Subject returning to previous velocity. Estimated distance remaining in current exercise pattern, 5.2 kilometers. Little did Vitak know, his entire understanding of human physical capabilities was about to be dramatically revised. The grand chamber of the Galactic Defense Council hummed with the gentle vibration of gravity compensators, creating a comfortable 0.3 G environment for the assembled dignitaries. Vitak stood at the central podium, his carapace polished to a professional sheen, as he presented his findings on human physical capabilities. As you can see from Subject 274's morning exercise routine, he gestured to the holographic display showing Dr. Anderson's jogging data. Humans rely on repetitive motion and extended physical exertion for maintenance of their biological functions. While their endurance is noteworthy, it hardly qualifies as a strategic concern. High Counselor Zinra leaned forward, their crystalline form refracting light across the chamber. Yet they survived multiple extinction-level events during their evolution. Surely this suggests some notable physical advantages. Merely good fortune and basic tool use, Vitak replied confidently. Their bodies are remarkably fragile. No natural armor, no enhanced sensory organs, no significant natural weapons. Commander, Keller's voice cut through the chamber as they glided forward on their platform. Perhaps a practical demonstration would be more illuminating. They gestured to the device that had been quietly humming in the corner. Vitak's mandibles twitched in slight annoyance at the interruption. Of course, advisor. What did you have in mind? Please, step into the marked circle. Cutler indicated a glowing ring on the chamber floor. This is a localized gravity field generator. I've calibrated it to match the conditions of your subject's natural environment. Several council members leaned forward with interest. Vitak strode confidently into the circle, his four-legged gait perfect in its military precision. And now, Keller's upper appendages moved in what some species recognized as their version of a smile. Computer, activate Earth standard gravity. The change was instantaneous. Vitak's legs buckled as his body weight tripled. His exoskeleton, evolved for a world with 1/3 Earth's gravity, creaked under the sudden strain. He tried to maintain his dignified posture, but found himself sinking to the floor. His breathing labored. This must be an error, he gasped. The generator is malfunctioning. No malfunction, Commander, Collar said calmly. This is what Dr. Anderson experiences every moment of every day. Computer, display the morning exercise footage again with gravity overlay. The hologram expanded, now showing the force readings, as Dr. Anderson performed her pull-ups. The numbers made several council members' appendages twitch involuntarily. Each time she lifts her body weight, Collar explained, she's managing forces that would cripple most of our species. Those simple running motions. Her legs are absorbing impact forces that would shatter our load-bearing limbs. Impossible, Vitak managed to say, still struggling to rise. Their medical records show frequent injuries. Their bodies break easily. Computer, show fracture recovery comparison, Collar commanded. A new display appeared, showing the healing rate of human bones versus other known species. They break, yes, but they heal. Their skeletal structure actually gets stronger at the break points. They call it Wolff's Law. Their bodies don't just survive under these conditions, they adapt to them. They get stronger. The council chamber had gone very quiet. On the display, Dr. Anderson had finished her pull-ups and was now doing something called push-ups, essentially lifting most of her body weight with just her upper limbs, over and over. Computer, end gravity simulation, Killer finally said. Vitak practically levitated as the field released him, his legs shaking slightly as he returned to his normal weight. High Counselor Zinra's voice carried a new note of concern. Advisor Killer, are you suggesting we need to revise our threat assessment? Oh no, Collar replied, their tone carrying what might have been amusement. "I'm suggesting we need to revise our entire approach to human relations." Commander Vitak's morning exercise subject. She's a theoretical physicist. That display of strength we just watched. That was her idea of a light workout, before beginning her actual workday, processing complex mathematical concepts while doing it. Vitak, still trying to regain his composure, found himself looking at the footage of Dr. Anderson with new eyes. "I may need to update my report." Kalur watched with evident satisfaction as the council chamber's atmosphere shifted from professional curiosity to growing unease. Vitak had finally managed to return to his hover chair, though his legs still trembled slightly from his brief exposure to Earth normal gravity. "Now that we've established a baseline understanding of human environmental conditions," Kalur announced, "let's examine what they consider athletic achievement." Computer, begin compilation alpha. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a massive arena filled with cheering humans. A female athlete approached what appeared to be a simple horizontal bar. "This is Simone Biles, during what humans call the Olympics," Kalur explained. "Please note that this performance is considered impressive, but not impossible, by human standards." The council watched in stunned silence as Biles launched herself into the air, performing multiple rotations around multiple axes before landing with precision on a padded surface. "Computer, overlay force calculations," Kalur commanded. Numbers appeared, causing several council members to emit distress sounds. "Yes, you're reading that correctly. The landing forces alone would shatter most known species' load-bearing appendages." She performed this routine multiple times. For entertainment. "Surely this is an exceptional individual?" High Counselor Zinra asked, their crystalline form vibrating with concern. "Computer, display training facility footage," Kalur responded. The display changed to show a large room filled with young humans, none past their early growth stage. They were all performing similar feats of aerial rotation, bouncing off various surfaces with reckless abandon. "These are children," Kalur said quietly, "learning basic gymnastics. For fun." A junior analyst in the back of the chamber fainted, their levitation unit automatically compensating to prevent a fall. "But perhaps you prefer something more directly relevant to military applications," Kalur continued. "Computer, display American Ninja Warrior trials." The screen showed humans leaping between obstacles, hanging by their upper limbs, and propelling themselves up vertical surfaces using only their natural abilities. "This is a television game show," Kalur explained. "Entertainment. The participants are not professional athletes. They include teachers, office workers, and, yes, Commander Vitak, more physicists." Vitak's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of severe agitation. "But their medical records, we have extensive documentation of human injuries." "Ah yes," Kalur nodded. "Computer, display parkour compilation." The footage showed humans leaping between buildings, rolling across concrete, and absorbing impacts that made several council members cover their visual organs. These humans often suffer what they call sprains and bruises, minor tissue damage that heals within days. They consider these injuries annoying, not debilitating. In fact, Kalur paused for effect, they have developed their own classification system for pain, rating it from 1 to 10. What we would consider catastrophic structural damage, they often rate as a 3 or 4. A display of UFC fighting footage caused another junior analyst to request emergency leave from the chamber. The sight of humans voluntarily engaging in impact-based combat sports was apparently too much for their neural processing. And finally, Kalur said, "Let's observe what human children do for simple amusement." The footage shifted to a school playground. Young humans were launching themselves off swings, climbing metal structures, and engaging in something called tag, which appeared to be a high-speed chase game with frequent collisions. They let their young do this. Counselor Zinra's voice had risen several octaves. Without protection. Without training. Oh, they have safety protocols, Kalir assured them. They put down a few centimeters of processed tree bark under the higher structures. They call it mulch. The chamber erupted in chaos. Several emergency medical units were deployed to assist council members experiencing acute stress responses. Vitak sat in his chair, mandibles completely still, a sign of deep shock in his species. I believe, Kalir concluded calmly, we may need to reconsider our approach to human diplomatic relations. After all, any species that considers these activities recreation might need to be handled with particular care. The Council's testing chamber had been specifically modified for this demonstration. 3 days had passed since the initial revelation, and the chamber now featured multiple gravity control zones, impact sensors, and the most advanced medical monitoring equipment available to the Galactic Defense Council. Dr. Jessica Anderson stood in the center of the chamber, looking rather amused at the mountain of safety protocols that had been implemented for what she considered a basic physical demonstration. She wore standard Earth athletic attire, running shoes, compression leggings, and a tank top that the alien medical team had nearly objected to as insufficient protection. "So you want me to show you a basic parkour roll?" she asked, looking at the heavily reinforced testing area. "You really don't need all this equipment for that." Kalir, now acting as the chief safety officer for the demonstration, hovered nearby on their platform. "Please, Dr. Anderson, the protocols are as much for our observers' comfort as for safety measures. The last time we showed footage of human athletics, 3 council members required medical intervention." Anderson shrugged, a casual movement that made several observers flinch as their instruments registered the casual power in her muscular system. "All right, but I'm really not that athletic. I just take a basic movement class twice a week." Vitak, required to attend as part of his cultural sensitivity retraining, watched from behind a reinforced observation shield. His mandibles still clicked occasionally when he remembered his experience with Earth gravity. "Beginning recording," Kalir announced. "Dr. Anderson, please demonstrate a basic forward roll from standing position." Anderson nodded, took 2 steps forward, and smoothly transitioned into a roll that carried her across the testing floor. She came up to her feet in one fluid motion, brushing off her hands. The chamber's instruments erupted in alerts. "By the first nebula," one of the technical analysts whispered. "The impact force distribution." She just casually executed a movement that would have shattered most species' skeletal structure. "Oh," Anderson said, looking genuinely surprised at the reaction. "That's just a safety roll. It's the first thing they teach you in parkour. It's how we learn to fall safely. You know, for kids and elderly people who might have balance issues. You teach your young and elderly this?" Kalir asked, their voice carefully controlled. "Well, yeah. It's better than falling wrong and hurting yourself." She paused, then added helpfully, "I can show you the advanced variations if you want. Though I'm still working on my side rolls from height." "From height?" Vitak found himself asking, despite his best intentions to remain silent. "Sure. You know, like if you need to roll out of a 2nd-story jump or something." She gestured at the 10-meter-high platform that had been installed for possible future tests. "Though that's a bit high for me. I usually practice from about half that height." The medical team rushed to attend to another observer who had gone into shock. "Dr. Anderson," Kalir said carefully, "could you explain what you mean by practice?" "Oh, just basic parkour training. I started taking classes because my job keeps me at a desk too much. You know how it is, sit around thinking about quantum mechanics all day. You need some light exercise to stay healthy." The chamber's gravity sensors registered a slight fluctuation as several anti-grav units struggled to compensate for their operators' involuntary stress responses. And this, light exercise, Calder continued. How often do you practice these movement techniques? Couple times a week, maybe 2 hours per session. She stretched, a casual movement that the instruments registered as generating forces equivalent to a small loading mech. Though lately I've been more focused on rock climbing. It's better for problem-solving skills, you know. Physical chess, some people call it. Vitak made a note to research this rock climbing later, though something told him he might regret it. I think, Calder announced to the chamber, we have sufficient data for this initial test. Though Dr. Anderson, if you're willing, the council would be very interested in learning more about these recreational activities. Anderson smiled, a warm, friendly expression that nonetheless sent shivers through several observers as they contemplated what humans considered recreation. Sure, should I tell you about CrossFit next? I just started, but it's pretty fun. The Council's Weapons Analysis Division had taken over the main briefing theater. Holograms of various human athletic events floated in the air as Senior Analyst Rixtel addressed the emergency session. Their usually iridescent scales had taken on a pale, worried hue. After reviewing the data from Dr. Anderson's demonstration, Rixtel began. We discovered something far more concerning than individual human strength. They actually have no idea they're strong. The theater's main display showed footage from something called the Highland Games. A human, in what appeared to be a patterned fabric wrap, was casually tossing a tree trunk end over end. This, Rixtel continued, their voice quavering slightly, is considered a traditional cultural celebration. They call it caber tossing. The object being thrown weighs approximately 175 Earth pounds. Vitak, still required to attend these sessions, felt his mandibles click involuntarily. They throw trees for entertainment. Oh, it gets worse, Rixtel said, changing the display. This is called Strongman Competition. Please note that the participant's biography lists him as a primary school teacher in his regular occupation. The footage showed a human male lifting what appeared to be a massive stone sphere. The weight reading caused several council members to activate their emergency stabilization fields. Moving on to their endurance activities, Rixtel continued, though their scales had lost even more color. This is called an ultramarathon. The participants run. I apologize, but my translation may be off. They run 100 miles, continuously, through mountains, for fun. Kalir, hovering at the back of the theater, added helpfully, Dr. Anderson mentioned she's considering training for one next year. She called it a bucket list item, apparently a reference to activities humans wish to experience before their natural lifespan ends. But surely they must rest, one council member asked hopefully. They do take brief breaks, Rixtel confirmed. They call them power naps. Then they continue running. Some participants actually seem to enjoy the sleep deprivation. They call it runner's high. The display changed again, showing a human massage therapy session. Several council members who had started to relax immediately tensed again. Their relaxation activities, Rixtel said with a note of horror, involve applying pressures that would crack most species' exoskeletons. They call it deep tissue massage and claim it feels pleasant and relieving. Vitak raised an appendage. Could this be a form of combat training disguised as recreation? We considered that, Rixtel replied. But no, they genuinely do these things for entertainment, social bonding, and what they call personal growth. Here's a recording from a human exercise facility. The screen showed a CrossFit box, a term that had already caused much confusion among xenolinguists. Humans were performing various high-intensity movements while encouraging each other through what appeared to be collective suffering. They pay money, Rixtel emphasized, to access these facilities. They schedule these sessions before or after their regular work hours. Many consider it a social activity. A new council member, recently assigned to the Human Overview Committee, raised their photoreceptor stock. But surely their medical professionals advise against such activities. Kalir actually emitted their species' version of a laugh. Their medical professionals often recommend more exercise. They have a common saying, "No pain, no gain." The theater fell silent as this information was processed. "There's one more thing," Rixtel added, their scales now almost white with stress. "We've been monitoring their global information network. There's a growing movement called functional fitness, where humans are trying to return to what they call natural movement patterns." "You mean?" VTAC started. "Yes," Rixtel confirmed. "They think they're out of shape. They're actively trying to become stronger." The emergency medical team, which had been on standby since the Highland Games footage, moved into action as several council members required immediate anxiety suppression. The military analysis chamber was filled with the gentle hum of quantum computers and the occasional nervous clicking of various species' anxiety responses. Chief Military Strategist Venthor, a veteran of 3 interstellar conflicts, stood before the assembled council with what his species would consider a pale complexion. "We've completed our analysis of Subject 274's, Dr. Anderson's, morning exercise data," he began, his upper appendages twitching slightly. "The results are concerning." The holographic display activated, showing a 3-dimensional model of Dr. Anderson's running form. Alongside it, comparative data from various known species scrolled past. What we initially dismissed as a simple endurance display has revealed several tactical implications. Venthor highlighted the impact forces generated by each stride. Her light jog pace would outmatch the top sprint speed of approximately 82% of known sentient species. VTAC, now serving as a cautionary example in these briefings, shifted uncomfortably in his hover chair. "Surely this must require significant recovery time." "That's just it," Venthor replied, his color fading further. "She does this every morning, before work, while solving complex physics equations." Our medical team initially refused to believe the data. The display shifted to show a comparison of energy output and recovery rates. Several junior analysts had to look away. Furthermore, Venthor continued, "When we mentioned these findings to Dr. Anderson, she laughed. Actually laughed. Then she said, and I quote, 'Oh, I'm pretty out of shape right now. You should see the marathon runners.'" Kalir, who had become something of an expert on human physical capabilities, added helpfully, "She's correct. Her performance would be considered below average for a serious human runner." The room erupted in distressed vocalizations. But the most alarming discovery, Venthor pressed on, comes from our analysis of their professional athletes. He paused to activate a medical suppression field around the more sensitive council members. This is footage from something called the NFL Combine. The display showed humans performing various standardized physical tests. The force calculations caused 3 different species translation matrices to short-circuit as they tried to convert the numbers into comprehensible terms. "These humans," Venthor explained, his voice now barely a whisper, "can generate enough force in a single sprint to break through most standard military containment fields. Their vertical leap would allow them to clear our highest security barriers. And their grip strength." He paused, seeming to need a moment to compose himself. "Their grip strength could crush the control systems of most personal defense suits. Surely they must use enhancement technology," a council member asked hopefully. "No," Kalir interjected. "In fact, they have strict rules against such things. They call it doping and consider it cheating. These are their natural capabilities." Venthor nodded grimly. "We also analyzed their combat sports. Most of our species would be classified as medically unfit to compete in even their amateur divisions. The impact forces they voluntarily endure for entertainment exceed our military training maximum thresholds. The display changed one final time, showing Dr. Anderson's latest physical assessment. She had recently started something called rock climbing, and the force requirements for even basic movements had caused the analysis team to triple-check their equipment for errors. In conclusion, then Thor said, his color now almost transparent, "We must fundamentally revise our understanding of human physical capabilities. What we consider emergency maximum exertion, they consider a light warm-up. What we view as lethal impact forces, they consider mild discomfort. And most critically," he paused, "ensuring the medical team was ready, they are actively trying to become stronger." The chamber fell silent except for the soft whir of emergency medical units deploying to assist various council members. "Oh," Kalir added, almost as an afterthought. "And Dr. Anderson mentioned she's taking up something called Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu next month. Apparently, it's a gentle art." The medical unit's activity doubled. The council had decided to arrange an informal meeting with Dr. Anderson, hoping to better understand human culture in a more relaxed setting. They chose the station's newly constructed Earth-style cafe, complete with gravity compensation fields for non-human visitors. Kalir watched with scientific fascination as Dr. Anderson arrived, carrying what humans called a gym bag along with her work materials. The security scanners had nearly triggered an alert when they detected the dense weights inside the bag, which Anderson had explained were for her quick lunch break workout. "I hope you don't mind," Anderson said cheerfully, setting down her bags. "I usually do some light training during lunch. Helps keep the mind sharp for afternoon physics calculations." Vitak, now serving as cultural liaison due to his unique personal experience with human gravity, tried not to flinch as she casually moved a chair that their engineering team had rated for supporting small transport vehicles. "Before we begin," Anderson continued, "I need my morning coffee. Anyone want some? They have a great Ethiopian blend here." The assembled dignitaries watched in horrified fascination as Anderson approached the counter and ordered what the barista, a well-trained xenobiologist specialized in human consumption habits, had labeled as a venti dark roast. "Dr. Anderson," Kalir ventured, "our research indicates this coffee contains significant amounts of a nervous system stimulant." "Oh, caffeine." She lifted the large ceramic mug, which their instruments registered as weighing nearly 1% of her body mass, with a single hand. "Yeah, it's pretty mild, though. Just enough to get the day started." Several council members' biological monitoring devices began emitting stress warnings as they watched her casually manipulate the heavy container of near-boiling liquid with one hand while checking her quantum physics notes with the other. "Mild." Vitak's translator almost glitched on the word. "Our medical database indicates the amount in that beverage would cause severe neurological responses in most species." Anderson took a long sip of the steaming liquid, an action that made the medical team instinctively ready their emergency response protocols. "Really? Huh. I actually cut back recently. Used to drink about 3 of these before lunch." The chief medical officer, Dr. Zelter, couldn't contain their professional curiosity. "And you consume this before your neural system is fully active for the day?" "Oh yeah." Anderson nodded, taking another casual sip of what their sensors registered as a near-toxic stimulant concentration. "Can't really function without my morning coffee. Most humans are the same way." The room fell silent as the implications of this statement sank in. A species that required neural stimulants, this powerful just to reach their base operating level, was concerning. "Speaking of morning routines," Anderson added brightly, "I'm thinking of adding some high-intensity interval training before my regular jog. You know, just to get the blood flowing." Kalir made a mental note to update the council's threat assessment categories. They clearly needed a new classification for species that considered chemical stimulants and intense physical exertion a normal part of their morning routine. Oh, and I brought some protein bars if anyone wants to try human snacks, Anderson offered, pulling out what the security scan had identified as dense blocks of concentrated nutrients that would exceed most species' daily caloric requirements. The emergency medical team quietly upgraded their alert status. Dr. Anderson, VTAC said carefully, these meeting rooms are equipped with what we consider highly advanced comfort seating for all known species. Yet you seem uncomfortable. Oh, these chairs? She shifted, causing the reinforced furniture to creak slightly. They're a bit too cushy. I actually prefer something firmer. Better for posture, you know. Maybe I'll just stand. The room's gravity sensors registered her casual movement to a standing position as equivalent to a small cargo loader's power output. Kettler made another note. Update all diplomatic furniture requirements for human interactions, and perhaps reconsider the meaning of the word comfort in cross-species relations. The final classification meeting of the Galactic Defense Council had been moved to a special chamber equipped with enhanced gravity compensation and multiple comfort field generators. After the events of the past week, no one was taking any chances with stress-induced medical episodes. High Counselor Zinra's crystalline form sparkled under the chamber's soft lighting as they reviewed the final report. So, we are all in agreement. Earth is to be reclassified as a Class 1 handle with respect civilization. The assembled council members, including a still-shaken VTAC, signaled their agreement. The chamber's displays showed security footage from their various interactions with Dr. Anderson, including the now infamous coffee incident. I've prepared the final advisory document, Calder announced, their hover platform now equipped with additional stabilizers after several near mishaps during their human research. Would you like me to share the key points? Please, Zinra gestured with a crystalline appendage. Though perhaps warn the medical team first. Kalir nodded to the emergency response unit standing by. The document begins with our most critical discovery. Always test gravity conditions before making any assumptions about human capabilities. The display showed Dr. Anderson's latest visit to the station's recreational facility, where she had casually used one of the safety barrier walls as a backrest while reading through gravity specifications for different species. The wall had been rated to stop small transport vehicles. Furthermore, Calder continued, we've had to revise our understanding of several key terms when dealing with humans. Their definition of light exercise would qualify as military-grade training for most species. Their concept of mild discomfort aligns with what we would consider severe trauma. VTAC, who had recently been appointed head of the newly formed Human Relations Advisory Committee, added his own note. We've also had to update our diplomatic protocols. All meeting spaces must now include what humans consider proper seating, which, according to Dr. Anderson, means chairs that would be considered uncomfortably rigid by most species standards. The display shifted to show Anderson's most recent visit to the station's medical bay. She had volunteered for some basic physical tests, leading to 3 equipment malfunctions and one very confused medical eye that kept insisting its sensors needed recalibration. The most crucial section, Calder highlighted, deals with human recreational activities. We've had to create an entirely new risk assessment scale. Their sports would qualify as extreme survival training on most worlds. Their children's playgrounds would be classified as military obstacle courses by 17 different species. A junior analyst raised an appendage. What about the stimulant situation? Calder's color shifted slightly. Ah, yes. We've had to accept that humans regularly consume substances that would be classified as military-grade combat stimulants on most worlds. They call it morning coffee and become quite irritable without it. The display showed Dr. Anderson in the station's cafeteria, casually holding a large coffee mug, while explaining quantum entanglement theories to a group of fascinated and terrified xenophysicists. The mug, according to the censors, weighed more than some species young. Our final recommendation, Kahler concluded, is to immediately begin a full diplomatic outreach program. Any species that considers Earth's gravity normal and views our most stringent physical challenges as light exercise should be treated as a valued ally rather than a potential adversary. Zinra's crystalline form chimed in agreement, and the emergency protocols for human interactions, already implemented, VTAC reported. All human-accessible areas now include what they consider basic safety features, though Dr. Anderson keeps asking why we've installed so much padding on everything. The council chamber's main door slid open, and Dr. Anderson herself walked in, having just finished what she called a quick morning workout. The assembled council members watched in a mixture of awe and horror as she casually moved with perfect balance in the station's 0.3G environment. "Hey everyone," she smiled, holding another large coffee. "I just had a great idea for some cross-species sports activities. Nothing too intense, maybe start with something simple like rock climbing." The medical team moved into action as several council members fainted. On second thought, Kahler added to their report, "Perhaps we should create an even higher classification than Class 1. Something along the lines of treat with extreme respect and keep away from coffee supply."